So with FIFA 20 just a few months away, what I thought we'd do for today's video is look into some championship player ratings and decide who is deserving of the biggest upgrades going into FIFA 20. So for this video I've come up with about 20 or so players who I think are deserving of quite hefty upgrades based on what they were rated last time out. If you'd like to see a part 2 to this, make sure you do leave a like, or if you'd like to see another video where I go over some of the players who I think are deserving of the biggest downgrades from the championship, make sure to let me know. I'd be interested to know from you guys who you think is most deserving from your club of some upgrades going into next season, but without further ado, let's hop in some of these players. So kicking things off with Adam Webster at Bristol City. He's more than deserving of an upgrade. I bumped him up to a 75 rating. Since being promoted back up to the championship, Bristol City had their best defensive record last season, and Adam Webster played a massive part in that. Already we've seen him being linked to Premier League clubs. In the last week or so, I think there's been reported interest from Everton, Newcastle and Aston Villa. Bristol City are going to want to do everything they can to keep hold of this guy because he had an unbelievable season. Brilliant partnership with Thomas Carse at the back and more than deserving of a gold card in my opinion. Another player deserving of a +3 upgrade has to be Calvin Phillips, another player who's been heavily linked to the Premier League recently with Aston Villa, very interested in the Leeds defensive midfielder. On the championship transfer rumour around that we've been talking about Calvin Phillips pretty much every week with the interest from Premier League clubs, but it's obvious to see the improvement that he's had from last season since working under Marcelo Bielsa, and that's more than deserving of an upgrade in FIFA and could even be higher than that really. And let's be real, Pablo Hernandez has to be bumped back up to a gold card. I was surprised going into FIFA 19 that he was downgraded in the first place. They put him down to a 73, which I was a little bit surprised about, but after the season he's just had under Bielsa, scoring 12 goals and picking up 12 assists, that's more than deserving of bumping him back up to a gold card, and I'd bump him up to a 76 in my view. Now I think that in terms of technical ability he's probably the best in the league. I think everyone still finds it a bit baffling that he didn't make it into the championship team of the season after the year he had, because he was absolutely unplayable at times, and for my view more than deserving of an upgrade. Yesterday Stoke went a bit mental. They announced 5 new signings, one of which being Liam Lindsay from Barnsley, and he's one player who I decided to include in this list. Had a really solid year with Barnsley last season in League One, one of the best defenders in the league. I think that's worthy of bumping him up by 3 ratings up to a 70. I think that in the end the fee was around about £2.5 million moving to Stoke City, but Stoke fans, let me know down below what you make of all your new signings. Adam Davis, Jordan Cousins, Lindsay Powell and Lee Gregory were all announced the other day, so Stoke aren't messing about in this transfer window. Charlton have already lost quite a few players in the window so far, but one player they have to keep hold of is Lyle Taylor, an absolute clutch player for them last season. In League One, he scored 22 goals and came up with 11 assists. Absolute mad numbers for a striker to be putting up. Next season, he's going to be absolutely vital for them. He came up with some massive moments for them last time as well, and that's more than deserving of being bumped up to at least a 70 rating in my view. Neil Etheridge had an absolutely unbelievable season despite getting relegated with Cardiff. He kept 10 clean sheets in the Premier League, saved 3 penalties. I don't know how many of you play fantasy football, but only Edison and Alisson got more points in fantasy football for a goalkeeper in the Premier League than Neil Etheridge last season for Cardiff, and that just goes to show what an immense season he had for them. You know, he really did keep them in some games, and I mean, if they can manage to keep hold of him for this championship season, they'll be in good hands at the back. Aston Villa have already been very interested in the shot stopper. It's understandable to see why. He needs to be bumped up to a gold card there with some of the stuff he was popping out last season. I bumped him up to a 76 from a 72, an upgrade of +4. He could even go on to be higher than that because he was unreal last season. In what was quite a depressing season for Huddersfield fans, I think that Colin Grant was one of the high points of their season. When he signed from them from Charlton in the January transfer window, he went on to score 4 goals in 13 Premier League appearances. I think that's deserving of an upgrade. I think he'll be a very big player for them in the championship next season. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and I'm hoping he's going to be their main man to lead the line for them next season, and for that reason I bumped him up to a 68. Before he had signed for Huddersfield, he was absolutely tearing it apart in League One for Charlton, where he scored 14 goals in 28 appearances. In FIFA 19, Darren Randolph was massively underrated, only 71. I bumped him up to a 75. In my view, he's one of the best in the league. Last season, Middlesbrough had the joint best defensive record. He only conceded 41 goals last season, albeit it was in quite a defensive Pulis side, but Randolph's proved himself in the championship time and time again to be one of the best shot stoppers, and judging by some of the other goalkeeper ratings in the league, I think it would be more than fair to make him a gold card going into FIFA 20. I think Joe Lully surprised everyone by just how good he was last season, scoring 11 goals and picking up 11 assists. The highlight of his season had to be Aston Villa away in that crazy 5-5 draw they had, where he scored 1 goal and picked up 4 assists. Absolutely unreal performance, but he proved himself to be one of the best wingers in the championship, either playing on the left or right hand side. He was absolutely unplayable, and he scored some absolute belters along the way as well. And coming off the season of his life, Neil Maupay deserved to be bumped up to a gold card from 71. He scored 25 goals and came up with 8 assists last season for Brentford. Just a really horrible player to come up against in all aspects really. So the best player I can sort of compare him to would be someone like Luis Suarez with some of his sort of antics. He's the sort of player, if you've got him on your team, you absolutely love him, and it's no surprise to see why. why there has been Premier League interest in this guy. He scores goals and is just an absolute handful for the opposition. I'm going to throw Che Adams into that bracket as well. There's also been a lot of Premier League interest in this guy, bumping him up from a 71 to a 75, scoring 22 goals and coming up with 4 assists last season. As Birmingham weren't really able to sign many players last time, the onus was on Che Adams and Djukovic going forward, but those two more than delivered. They had a great partnership between themselves. At only 22 years old, I'm sure he's going to go on to do big things in the future because last season he really ripped it up. Someone who we saw quite a few flashes from last season was Joe Rothwell at Blackburn Rovers. I think going into next season especially, he's someone who people need to keep their eye on. He had a handful of man of the match appearances for Blackburn, came off the bench a couple of times and really changed the game. He scored 2 goals and got 2 assists, but I think going into next season we really could see a breakthrough year for him. Based off match ratings alone, statistically Andy Hughes was Preston's joint best player last season with an average match rating of 7.11, which is absolutely fantastic for a debut season in the Championship. When he signed for Preston from Peterborough, his first, month or so, there were a couple of shaky performances in there, but after he had a bit of time to adapt to the league, he more than fit into that left back role, and he sort of had the impossible job coming into Preston. He was replacing Greg Cunningham, who was adored by absolutely every Preston fan, one of the best fullbacks in the Championship in my view. He went on and signed for Cardiff, so to replace him was always going to be a tough job, but I think that Hughes really went on to do that. He came up with 3 goals and 2 assists last season, really solidified that left hand side for us, and towards the end of the season when he was out injured, I think that we really felt his absence in the side there. So for me, Andy Hughes, definitely worthy of an upgrade. I was astonished that Jarrod Bowen was so low rated on FIFA 19 after coming off the back of a 15-goal season, but this time he's really outdone himself, scored 22 goals in the Championship last season and came up with 4 assists. That's more than deserving of being bumped up to a gold card. There's already been a bunch of Premier League interest in this guy. Hull will probably struggle to keep hold of him, but they'll get a sizable fee for him because he's one of the most promising upcoming players in England at the moment. A bit like the Championship's Iron Robin, loves to cut inside onto his left foot from the right, and he scored some belters last season as well. If you're getting into double figures for goals and assists, of course you're going to be worthy of a big upgrade. I bumped Ben Rama up by 6 ratings to a 74. He scored 10 goals and got 14 assists last season. Fit into that Brentford style of play like an absolute glove. He was an absolute bargain buy for that. We've already seen Aston Villa being interested in Ben Rama. I mean, Aston Villa have been interested in pretty much every player on this list so far, but he was an absolute baller last season. I hope they keep hold of him, as I'd like to see him have another season in the Championship. A really intelligent player, and being only 23, I think he's only going to keep on getting better into the future. Connor Roberts is more than deserving of an upgrade after last season from a bronze to a silver. I pumped him up by 6 ratings. A really comfortable player anywhere on that right hand side. He can play right wing, right midfield or at the back. He scored 5 goals and came up with 1 assist for Swansea last season. There are still some areas that he needs to improve in his game, but still a very young talent and definitely worthy of an upgrade. Joe Lumley for QPR had a real breakthrough year last time out. He kept 14 clean sheets in the league. Only 4 other goalkeepers kept more than Joe Lumley did. Up until around about Christmas time, he was having an unbelievable season. After that, his performance levels did dip down a little bit. A few silly mistakes were made, but that can be expected from a young goalkeeper. Forgetting about them, his rating is more than deserving of being bumped up. There's still areas of his game where he needs to improve. I think that distribution will be one of them. And it's also interesting with QPR recently signing goalkeeper Liam Kelly, where does that leave Lumley for next season? I think that competition will be a good thing for him. I think he's only going to improve going into the future as well. And another player like that is Jordan Storey for Preston North End. He was brought in from Exeter City with not really that much expectations on his shoulders. I think when we signed him, most people expected him to be loaned out to League 1 or League 2, get a bit more experience under his belt. At the start of the season, he wasn't really anywhere near the first team sheet, but with some of our senior players' performances really dipping down a level or two, when Jordan Storey was eventually brought into the side to partner alongside Ben Davis, our defensive record drastically improved. Despite only being 21, I think he's got a very level head on him, brilliant composure on the ball, good in the air, and just the sort of player who we were in need of in the first half of the season. It's looking more than likely that James Justin will be making the move to the Premier League from Luton Town. I think that he's supposed to be having his medical at Leicester today. But after scoring 3 goals and picking up 7 assists in League 1 last season, he's one player who's got to be bumped up going into next year's FIFA, despite the fact that he's probably not going to be playing in the Championship. Jacob Brown really had his breakthrough year in League 1 last season for Barnsley after scoring 8 goals and coming up with 6 assists. On FIFA 19, he was only 56 rated. I think that has to be addressed going into next year's FIFA. He came up with some big goals along the year for Barnsley, which obviously eventually led to them getting promoted. I think that after signing Brad Potts as well, he went well to fill in those positions. Being only 21, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Championship this season. And then finally, to wrap up the video, we got Andy Rinomota at Reading. After the season he's just had for them, definitely needs to be bumped up from that 58 he was in FIFA 19. Especially towards the tail end of last season, he came up with some really clutch performances for Reading. He scored that brilliant equaliser against Norwich in the 2-2 draw at Carrow Road. I think he's someone you build the team around. He's only going to get better each season. But guys, there you have it. There are some of the Championship players who I think are worthy of some of the biggest upgrades going into FIFA 20. So if you did go on to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Also, if you would like to see a part 2 to this, or you would like to see me going over some downgrade upgrades for FIFA 20, let me know in the comments down below, because I've got a couple players in mind for that one. But like I say, if you did go in to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like, make sure you subscribe for some regular championship content. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.